Hello and welcome to Positive Fandom. I'm Mmmm, and of course we have with us today Russ Whitfield from the UK. How are you today, Russ?
I am good, thanks, RM. It is a beautiful day here in the UK. I don't know what it's like because I understand you are not in the Big Apple as we speak. You have moved locations for a special on-site broadcast from where?
I am in Maryland.
M- Exciting, Maryland. I'm just seeing some hellos to me. Hey, Mikey. Hey, Tom. Junior Jackson, the legend that is. Yes, good morning, Governor. Thanks, Mikey. Hello, mate. There we go. Hello, mate. Yeah, how are you on this Sunday morning for you, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I feel pretty good. It's kind of it's actually very warm here. There's going to be a high of 80 here, so I'm very
Holy smoke.
very happy about that. And it feels like spring has sprung here, and I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for warm weather. I'm ready for the beach. I'm always ready for the beach. So
See what it is, RM. I think I'm making a limey out of you because here we are talking about the weather. Next you'll be picking up cricket skills and stuff like that. But yeah, what a week in fandom. There's been a lot going on, lots to talk about. The one of the things that I wanted to mention straight away is a very worthy project that I found out about last year. My friend, my hero, Zack Snyder, released his storyboards for what was going to be Justice League 2 and 3. So, and there was some controversy about that because there was a whole storyline where after Superman had passed with the Doomsday fight, Lois and Bruce got together, etc., etc. And there was all these things going on, and they've said now that that was just an idea for a story. It wasn't particularly the way it was going to go, but it was concept art, concept uh, storyboarding. So there is a YouTuber or a channel. I don't know a lot about it because I only picked up on this morning, called the Nicotina Show, and they have been now teasing um, artwork for this. And what they're going to be doing in this year is releasing a motion comic. Uh, it's going to have music from the movie and all that sort of thing. A motion comic based on the original Zack Snyder storyboards, and it's not gonna be for free. It's a pay thing, but all of the money, of course, goes to the American suicide prevention charity, obviously, which Zack Snyder is sadly he has he's a huge
right,
supporter of it.
he's
We know what happened there.
yeah.
So I am excited about that. I don't know a lot about it. Like, I haven't really investigated the channel yet, but I just wanted to give that a shout out. Um, uh, and also, Clay Staub, the second unit director, has been teasing yet more stuff, more Excalibur-based stuff on Snyderverse. Picture of Percival when he goes to get the Grail, and he's reaching out for the Holy Grail, and there you can see on his armor, if you brighten it up, is hashtag Restore the Snyderverse in the shoulder piece. So they are teasing and teasing and teasing. We don't know what's going to happen. I was very sure this was going to be a thing. Now I'm kind of 50-50 after recent announcements, but we shall see. And there's Keely Chow. Hello, Keely.
Hi, Keely, and good morning to Cool Gamer as well. So
Hello, Cool
nice
Gamer.
to see you this morning, Cool Gamer. We so do appreciate it. That comic sounds amazing. I love when they do things like this.
Mm,
I think it's wonderful to see these storyboards. I always thought that comic books were storyboards for me. They just look so similar. There's a lot of similar placement to them, and I think that I just don't really separate the two. I mean, historically, there must be some sort of relationship between the two. I always thought people who made comic books actually made storyboards too, but I guess it's not true. But now we've heard over the past few years that if you wanted to do any kind of production, they're always asking, is there a graphic novel associated with it? Is there a comic associated with it? And that could kind of get people deals. through certain channels. And I can understand why, because they look so good. The artwork is amazing, even to the point where there's a person who, does the line work, does the coloring, and then the person who writes the actual script in the storyboard. It's really just so nice. I love those motion ones where they do that, and I think that's going to look fantastic. And I think it'll make people have a lot more sentiment towards the comics,
Mm,
because a lot of this, almost all this fandom stuff really started with these comics. And, we've kind of pulled away from not all of us, but some of us have pulled away or have never even seen the comics, right, Russ? Some people
right.
who've never even seen the comics, people who have mainly just focused on the movies. And now they're getting this. Um, Hello, Megas of
Yeah,
Akanti.
he's on time.
Welcome.
Morning.
You certainly are on time, Megas of Akanti. Now, what I really like about this is that I'm hoping that it'll push people back towards the comics. I mean, I know it did that for me with some of these Star Wars comics and the
Mm,
Alien comics, especially. I think it's Alien Theory. He kind of created it wasn't quite the same motion, Russ, that you're talking about, and the same level of quality, but that I think that they're going to do for the Snyderverse ones. But I think that those Alien comics really drew me back into the Alien franchise, especially the ones that had to do with the girl and I can't remember the man's name that
yeah, it was Billy and somebody else, but it was Hicks and Newt basically,
that's
and
right.
it was originally Hicks and Newt, in the first comic, the Earth War comic and all that sort of thing. But then Alien 3 came out and Hicks and Newt were killed, so they had to retcon the comics and make them other characters. But those Dark Horse comics were great. I don't know if I said on here before. I actually used to work with the model, who the artist used for Ripley in those comics.
And
Yeah.
hello, and I'm sorry, Russ. Hello, Renz Tolentino. Guys, Renz
Hey, Renz.
Tolentino is an artist himself,
Hmm.
a very, very good artist. And I've seen quite a bit of his work on Facebook. Guys, please check out Renz Tolentino's work. I don't know if Renz wants me to advertise that. I just wanted to say that I loved some of his work that I've seen. So,
Is it comic art?
regardless,
What sort of work? I haven't seen it, or and what sort of stuff is it?
I can't remember what I just saw literally yesterday, Russ.
Oh dear.
Can't remember what it was.
Well,
He had such a nice, detailed drawing on Facebook, and it
mhm.
was beautiful. So, Renz, please just refresh our memory if you're still there, Renz.
Yeah,
Good
chuck a
morning
link
to
in, man.
you.
I'd love to see
And
it.
let us know, again, just refresh our memory what you do. Latoya T is with us
Hello,
from
lovely.
Coco Tulip and her fashion line, guys. Good morning, Latoya T. It's always a pleasure to have you here, guys. Check out Coco Tulip and her beautiful line of clothing and apparel. Now, Renz is saying, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. His work is spectacular, Russ. And I don't really want
Mhm.
to digress off of what you're saying. Um, Going back to the comic, Russ actually brought me deeper into the Alien franchise.
Yeah, I mean, look, the movies haven't exactly covered themselves in glory, have they? Since the second one, but there's a massive expanded universe of alien novels, comic books, AVP crossovers, and all that sort of thing. That's where alien junkies have really been getting their fix for the past 20, 30 years or whatever. But now, of course, Dark Horse no longer have the license for Alien. It's gone over to Marvel Comics, and I haven't actually read the Marvel comics, but apparently they're average. Not, could be good, could not be good. But the Dark Horse ones, when they first came out, were movie quality comics. It was like putting yourself back in the films, but to roll back to the quality of the Snyderverse storyboards, these aren't professional people. I don't know what the quality is going to be like. This is, I guess, a labor of love for Snyder cultists like myself. So,
No,
uh,
it is something that I think is very interesting, Russ, because people might be grabbed back into, perhaps they stepped away from it for a while.
mhm,
Sometimes we need those things to kind of reinvigorate a series, and regardless as to whether it's the same story is completely irrelevant. seeing the storyboards is very different from watching the film. And I think
Absolutely.
that there's a certain appeal to the level of perfection that you must have for these storyboards, Russ. They
Yeah.
have to be perfect. They can't have any sort of like, they actually are the subtext of the story, right?
Yeah.
Where, it's creating that context of, oh, okay, this is the scene where they have that clash. And you can see many things and infer many things from those comic drawings. Hello, Burst Angel. So nice to see you this morning. And
I
Ashley,
love that
um,
avatar.
yes, Ashley says it's good to see. I guess, see, he's feeling better after. It's Ash. And I'm sorry, Ashley. I know you said it's Ash.
Mm.
Ash, it's good to see you feeling better after COVID. I'm glad that you are feeling better. We are all glad. For those of you, there's a lot of people out there who are suffering from that. So just guys, take the time you need to rest and get better. But Russ, I was amazed, Russ, when I was talking to you last week, or it might have been the week before, about the gray version of the Snyder Cut.
Oh yeah,
And I can't
Justice is
help but
grey.
think about the gray, because I don't know whether the storyboards, they're probably be in color, but even if
Mhm.
they were not in color, it doesn't matter, because I can't help but think about storyboards too when I think about the gray. It's
Mhm.
kind of feels like they're bringing you back to the storyboard, the ones that are in black and white, that is. And I grew up like reading a ton of comic books that were in black and white,
Yeah.
uncolorized, I don't know what you call it, but a ton of stuff like that. Now the alien ones that I was talking about, those happen to have color in them, and they were not the best drawings that we've ever seen, right, Russ? They were not.
They had a style. I think the first ones, the first one that came out certainly had its own style. I wasn't particularly a fan of the internal comic, but I thought the covers and all that sort of thing were really really nice. Yeah, but I don't the it wasn't so much about the artwork for me, and as a I'm not really a visual person, so like yeah, of course I can recognize a nice looking picture, but for me it was all about the story, and I thought they were superb. Actually, Mikey Leto here is saying any possibility of getting the Alien universe crossover into new Trek. I guess I'd be asking too much. Well, I think Trek's Paramount, isn't it? And Alien is now well, Fox, Disney. So no. But having said that, there are some very very talented people out on the internet that always make these like fan crossover trailers. I remember I saw a brilliant one of Star Wars versus Alien. With the stormtroopers, and they were using the bits from Hoth and all that sort of thing, and intercutting it with Alien. But yeah, I doubt it, Mikey. To be honest with you, man. It'd be cool, but it would have to be a fan venture. And I saw some really great Star Wars fan films recently. There's a new ones that have come out. It's sort of like in the aftermath of the Battle of Endor, and these stormtroopers are on Endor trying to, they look up and they see the Death Star blowing up and all that. No spoilers, but it was 1983. So they look up and it's telling the story of the stormtroopers and what happens to them after the battle.
Yeah, that's
He just
interesting.
wants Utrecht destroyed. Um, you know what, Mikey? I'm not a huge fan. Like I like the old movies, the Captain Kirk movie. Obviously, the same as every kid watched original Trek. It used to be on here in BBC Two when I was young. But I'm not a huge Trekkie man, so I don't feel the same upset that perhaps a hardcore Trekkie would feel over the ruination of the franchise. As I think I said earlier before, I didn't mind the first Chris Pine or Chris Fine, as Annie keeps correcting me. I think you mean Chris Fine, Russ. Yeah, the first movie. You know what? It was okay. I didn't mind it at all.
Well, I
But
have a Chris Pine confession. After I saw him in All the Old Knives, which I did review with Lorena on my channel, because I was so impressed by it. And of course, Russ, you and I discussed how much we liked him in The Contractor, which was not a
mhm,
perfect film, but it was an entertaining one. You could see the potential that Chris Pine has going
mhm.
forward in his career. I managed to hunt down another film by Chris Pine called Outlaw King. And you have to excuse me for not knowing all the history, but it has to do with Scottish kings.
Yeah.
And so I watched it and it was okay.
Mm.
But I wasn't expecting to see something in that film that I saw of Chris Pine. In fact, I was a little surprised, and I thought maybe it was a foreign film, maybe by a foreign production company, because you saw a little bit more of Chris Pine than you would normally see,
Okay.
and I was quite surprised by that because
Did
we're
you
not
see his
really
bum?
seeing more than that.
Oh, oy vey.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, the camera's gonna stop there," but it kept going lower.
Mhm.
And, of course, my eyes were just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I'm seeing this."
Mm.
And then they didn't stop there. Another scene where there was like a lovemaking scene, which was nice. And you
Mhm.
kind of like they went pretty low, but you didn't see everything. And then there was another scene where I'm not going to get into it, but let's just say they showed a little bit more later on in the film. And I
Oh,
was quite
okay.
surprised by this. Yeah, Russ, come on. This was not something we see all the time, especially for male actors,
Yeah.
unless it's a foreign film. Like in some foreign films, you kind of just see, it's very casual.
Mm.
But I was very surprised to see that. And and so I was like, wow, this is very interesting. But I'm actually looking into more of his work because I want to see, as far as I'm concerned, about the only thing we've really heard about him is his Star Trek role,
Yeah, and
and
Wonder
so
Woman.
yeah, I'm like, he must have other work besides this. So, I kind of encourage everybody just go ahead and check out some of the roles that he's played. There's a film he made with the girl who was in Tron, and I can't remember her name. I think it was her, and he was looking for his parents or something like that, and it was actually a very heartwarming film, and I really liked that side. Um, Maybe if anybody knows the film I'm talking about, I think her name was Olivia Wilde. Is that her name? The
Oh,
very attractive
I was gonna
woman.
say she's not too hard on the eye.
Yeah, she's a very attractive woman. She and Chris Pine were in a film together, I believe.
Mm.
And boy, what a film this was! Might have been maybe the second film I had seen him in, and I was very impressed by his acting ability. And just honestly, it was a question that I think a lot of people, especially if you don't have your parents around, you could be greatly affected by the film because there's a lot of sentiment in that. And I think it's different when you, as an actor, when you decide to accept a role like that versus something like Star Trek or a superhero film. But and thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson. As always, we are all goof people. Thank you for letting people know the word out. Ash Chase wants to know, am I going to Star Wars Celebration? And the answer is yes, I am going to Star Wars Celebration, Ash. I will be, streaming from Star Wars Celebration. So if you're interested to see it this year, check it out. And Bloodsport One says, "Good morning, and Russ. How are you? The Northman, I haven't seen it yet. All right, Russ,
Not yet.
you
Not
haven't seen
yet.
it yet?
I haven't seen it yet. Okay, well, I've had a really busy week, outside of, positive fandom, kind of with some real life stuff that I've got going on at the moment. Nothing bad. It's all good stuff. And, my co what would you call Maria? My co-collaborator is on my back for me to write a new story, and, I said something in a conversation which is like a random thought, and she's kind of latched onto this one thing, and now I've trying got to string a story about this random thing that I said, and I'm really struggling to uh, roll that particular story, carpet out. Like I had a story in my mind, and I knew what I was going to say, and this one thing I said was about the antagonist of the story, but Maria's all like, "Oh no, that's a really great idea. I really like the concept of this." Um, and I'm like, shit. Well, I don't know what to write now because I had it all planned out. So it's been a bit of a struggle. I've been going to a few job interviews. So no, I haven't had time to do it yet. I just wanted to say hello to Bloodsport with the finest handle on the internet. Always good to see you. And Outcast Creators, hello, hello.
Hello,
Uh,
Outcraft
Saying
Creatives.
here, afternoon, guys. Good to see you. Casual Trek fan, even though I own 75 Trek ships for a game. Problem with the new shows is the poor writing and everything else is way overblown with lens flare. Yeah, Jar Jar's fingerprints are all over it, aren't they? But I just don't watch it. I like everybody else when Picard was going to come out. I bought into the nostalgia of that. I thought, yeah, this is going to be great. And I think the same as everybody. I think I watched 3 or 4 episodes of Picard and just gave up on it. Um, and I can kind of see. their uh, faux argument. Like, you're not going to be the same man that you were 30 years ago. It's the same argument they used with Luke Skywalker, I guess. Like, he's changed and he's disillusioned and he's this and he's that. But I don't know. It seemed to be fairly insulting to the character of John Luke Picard. But Patrick Stewart's got creative control over this, hasn't it? So he came out the other week and said, he's not even acting anymore. It's just him wanting to make statements and politics and so on and so on. So I imagine if you are on side with the politics and the viewpoints of the show that the show is projecting, then you're going to love it. But if you're not on board with it, then it's just going to be Captain Picard not being Captain Picard. So yeah, but not a fan, I'm afraid. Outcasts.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about that. And of course, Outcast creators, we're always happy to see you here. And guys, check out the Outcast
Mm.
Creatives channel, YouTube channel, and subscribe to them. They are a production company, more or less, in my opinion, actors, writers, definitely based in the United Kingdom, but international. Definitely check out the channel for interviews, scoops, all that good stuff that you love about entertainment. You'll find on the Outcast Creatives YouTube channel and production information. If you're interested in that, for sure, check them out. And hello, Kame Egan.
Hello.
How are you today? So glad that you are joining us here. I did watch the most recent episode of Star Trek Picard,
Hmm.
and I am a little worried. I think that Patrick Stewart has become just a little frail. He's a guy who has a lot of vigor outside of trying to perform and doing this. It does take a lot of energy to be an actor. You're getting up at the crack of dawn, sometimes like at 3 o'clock in the morning to get to a location. You got to go into makeup. There's a lot involved in this, even before you take a foot and step on a set. It is a lot of work, and it can be long days. And for someone like Patrick Stewart, I'm concerned he does seem just a little bit more frail, and his voice seems to be just wavering just a bit. We love him. Look, we love him. Every time we look at him,
Of course.
I absolutely see Jean-Luc Picard. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But he has such a fantastic history also, especially in New York, and perhaps UK as well, of on the stage. He was in the last time he was here in New York, he was in a play called, I think, Waiting for Godot,
Yeah.
and another one that I can't remember the name of it. But he loves to perform. He loves to have fun and enjoy himself. His wife, I think, is 35 or 40 years younger than him. He has children with her. He's an exciting, vibrant gentleman. And I kind of think that this series kind of doesn't really portray him that way, but
He
he
was in
does seem to.
Excalibur, which is
He
one of
was in
my favorite
Excalibur,
movies.
yes.
Yeah,
I
Leon
can't
de
remember
Grant's.
what role he played, but he
He
was
was
in
he was
that.
Leon de Grant's. He was
Thank
Guinevere's father.
Oh yes, yes, and I loved him in that. I loved him. Wasn't he in Dune or not?
He was in the 80s June. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, he was in Dune. He's been in a lot of very important films. He's got a stage career. Of course, we know him in television, in movies. He's been in a bunch of other films outside of our Star Trek that I've enjoyed as well. Certainly a very important career as far as I'm
He was
concerned.
in Life Force, which is a
Oh, was
canon
he?
movie. Yeah, a canon movie from 1985 about space vampires, which featured the so beautiful she'll hurt your eyes Matilda May, who's a French actress, and they again, you were talking about European actors and performers. The role required her to walk around for basically 99% of the movie fully frontal nude, which is why we all flock to the video shop to see Life Force. And Life Force is a Toby Hooper film made and funded by Canon, and it is out there, man.
First
It
of
is
all,
an out there
the
movie.
lady in Life Force is absolutely she's like a goddess.
Matilda May, yeah,
Um,
my God.
so for those of you who may not have seen it, and of course, Russ, it was made in the 80s, right,
Hmm,
Russ?
hmm, yeah,
And
85, I think.
she's just absolutely stunningly beautiful and almost graceful as she walks through the film, which I've only seen repeated, the similar scene in that I've seen Scarlett Johansson do in another film, which they kind of,
Under the
you're
Skin.
yes, where she gracefully walks, and it's almost as if she's not even human anymore. It's like she becomes a goddess, and it's
Mm,
just, you just can't take your eyes off of her. How beautiful. I mean, there's some parts in the film, Russ, where she's walking through a subway, and it doesn't even matter. Like, she could have been walking through a war scene, and if
mm,
she had walked through there the way that she walked, she completely transformed the screen. I mean, just absolutely, a thing of beauty that you can't ever forget it. And I still remember it. And it's so many years ago. What an accomplishment for an actress to be able to do something like that and still come across as genuine and authentic. There was nothing unnatural about it. It was just pure beauty.
mm.
What an accomplishment to be able to pull that off, because I think I'm not going to compare myself, but I would be terrified. It's just not easy to do that kind of thing. And so
Yeah, I'm
it
sure
really
she
is.
must have been terrified. I mean, but I remember seeing a documentary on it. In fact, yeah, she was terrified. But as time went on, it's like anything else. It's like when you start a new job, I suppose. You're bricking it, aren't you? Oh, I've lied my way into the job or whatever. I'm no good. I'm no good. By week 2 or 3, you're doing it with your eyes closed. And the impression that I got from, and I can't remember what this was on. It might have been the Electric Boogaloo, or was it a documentary, a retrospective on? I don't know, but I do remember them saying she was pretty bloody hell at first, but then it was par for the course. I mean, the film must have taken 6 or 8 weeks to make, so by the end of it, nobody cared, I imagine. But hey, I
Mhm.
want to pick up on this by Burst Angel here.
Hi,
My
First
husband,
Angel.
hiya. My husband is publishing a book later this year. Neither of us are extroverted enough to promote it. Struggling to have the nerve to make a YouTube channel. I don't know even if YouTube i- is promoting books a big thing on YouTube. I don't know. I know that you've got to be active on social media. Certainly, my mate Ben is Ben Kane, a very prolific historical fiction author, and he devotes a lot of time into social media because you know especially in genre fiction like historical fiction, the connection with the fans is really, 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 really important. But I don't know if that's the way to go. I mean, maybe you can put some more information about that in the chat, Burst Angel. What's the book called? Is it available yet? How are you publishing? Is it via traditional publishing? Are you self-publishing on Amazon? If you chuck some information into the chat there, maybe we can talk about it some more. But yeah, self promoting is really, really tough. I never had any promotion really for my book. I used to have to go around to bookshops and basically do signings in bookshops, which sounds like it would be really cool, but it's not you sitting at a table waiting for with queues of people. When you're a no name author, you're basically like a shop assistant. You just go around saying, "Hey, I'm Russ. I wrote this book. Would you like to have a look at it? And if you like it, I'll sign it for you." And most people were fine, but some people got really, really rude. I remember reading David Gemmell, who's one of my favorite authors, said the problem with the way that the publishing industry works, and the way, yeah, and I suppose it goes to the movie industry as well, is that the people that really need the promotion are the new writers, and they're the ones that the publishing houses won't spend any money on. So established authors, when you're going through whatever station you're going through, Waterloo's a big one here, you'll see huge posters for uh, Joe Nesbo, or the what's her name? Rowling, J.K. Rowling, whoever. Think of a famous author, James Patterson. You'll see big, huge posters for them. But these people are multi millionaires, billionaires in Rowling's case. They don't need that promotion, but Burst Angel's husband does, right? But he's never going to get it unless his book is successful. It's kind of like a reverse economy, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Burst Angel, do come back, or even today, if you have time. Let us know what the book is going to be, and just go ahead and put a shout out in these comments so that we can let everybody here know that the name of the book and when it's coming out, so we can have a look, and also what it's about. So
Yeah,
I understand the struggle. If you create a YouTube channel, at least you can create videos that people can click on and listen about what the book is about and development and who you are and who your husband are in regards to the company that you're creating for this book. So that's one plus. And but also, like as Russ said, think about Facebook and as many platforms as you can get your book to be advertised on is helpful as well. And anything that you have, we'll put up here, during the show. If you
Mm.
have information about it, we'll gladly promote that for
See now,
sure.
Tom's picked up on this. Yeah, no, no worries, Outcast Creative.
Mhm. Of
you're
course.
doing a brilliant thing. Like your channel is awesome. Your work is awesome. I am going to go and see the Gina play when you do it. But Tom's picked up on it here. He says here, yes, books are huge on YouTube. There's a whole subgenre called BookTube where people review books and do book hauls. And he's suggesting, yeah, she can interview her husband, etc., etc. So, yeah, listen to Tom. He knows more about it because I haven't written a novel in a long time. But so I'm not really in that realm anymore. But Tom seems to have the answer for you there, Burst Angel.
Absolutely. It looks like this is a fantastic suggestion from Tom, as always, because we are all goof people, Tom. Um, and absolutely, please check out this booktube where people review books. Burst Angel goes on to say that self-published, it's a comic story in novel form, much like a manga, and he wants to bring Bronze Age style stories to the 21st
Okay,
century.
okay. Let me
Oh,
pick up on this. Let me
really?
pick up on this. This is insane. I've seen so much. I think you might have hit something there, or he might. You both have hit on something that might be in the zeitgeist. For some bizarre reason, on my YouTube feed, I don't know why this has happened. Whether this is listening to me or whatever. There seems to be a big upswell in the past couple of years on people going back and looking at comic book characters from the 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even the 60s, um, of what's it called when the rights have when the rights have expired. So they're now
Yeah,
in the
flea
public domain.
markets,
Public domain.
yeah.
So a lot of these Bronze era superheroes are now in the public domain, and they've got reads and reads and reads of comics about them, but the rights expired, they lapsed, they were never picked up by anybody, and now so much time has expired. You can basically go back and start using these characters, and I think that's a brilliant idea. I saw one called Miss Fury, which looked really, really cool, and I thought, yeah, you could do something with that. And I think I saw, yeah, I was saying a couple of shows ago, I saw a YouTuber that's actually he's doing a GoFundMe where he's picked on, I think, Captain Atom or somebody. I can't remember the name of the character he was doing, but he's going to make an animated movie about one of these characters. So yeah, I think absolutely. But she's saying she doesn't have an artist for this at the moment, so you've just got a comic script. Is that right? Then I imagine there must be forums for writers and artists to hook up on, and you can put your script up, and if somebody wants to work with you, then an artist will apply and all the rest of it.
Exactly. Absolutely. Please do that and let us know how things are going, Burst Angel, with what you decided to do. So that way you can come back and let us know if you are on BookTube or whatever path you take, because we're interested to find out about this.
Mm,
And it certainly sounds so exciting and quite appropriate since we were talking about graphic novels.
mm.
And anybody here who has a graphic novel coming up, please let us know. We definitely want to see more of that. I think that it's very important. Uh, Michael Lito's talking about the Northman. I can't wait for you to see this, Russ. I'm not going to go into it in depth, um, but I do want to say that you absolutely should see the Northman. I
Mm,
think that it feels like things are kind of like coming back in regards to movies, and I also think that once we have that level of expertise and skill back in regards to the trades, because we've kind of been lacking it only because um we've had this shakeup in Hollywood, and we're going to talk about this, Russ, in a little
mm.
bit more detail about how specific qualified individuals really have been pushed aside for what I would say are individuals who are not qualified, and it shows. And you end up with storylines like in Star Trek Discovery or Picard, where you're not really getting the level of writing that we were expecting, because we had pretty much like a level of perfection in the Star Trek series for a long time. And so once that disappears, you notice right away, especially if you're a fan. and
Mm.
what is being produced is feels substandard. It's not quite what we were hoping for. And while some people do love it, there's a lot of people who are not quite convinced that it's the show for them. Bloodsport One asks if I'm in the LES. Do you know what that is for us? What's
No, I do not.
Bloodsport One? Please tell me what the LES is, or anyone about it. And Burst Angel is also asking, what do I make a video about and how do you sustain a channel? And really just what I was recommending, and you don't have to do this, you can show it on Facebook too, or on YouTube, or any of these social things. You can do it on Instagram, introducing what the book is about, letting people see the name of the book. Obviously, if it's you and your husband who are the authors of the book, and getting people excited about the release date. Wait till you see how great this book is, building up that type of interest in the book on social media, as Russ has suggested. Even a 2-minute video would do
Mm.
something to get the name out there. I would recommend that. Outcast Creative says Patrick Stewart did a one-man show in London of A Christmas Carol. I would have loved to have seen that.
That
I've
would have been
seen
cool. Yeah.
the movie, but I would love to just see him do something like that. So, and Megas of Akanti, of course, says what you said. He was Gurney in there, and how great Excalibur is. Also, Russ,
AA certificate. Yeah, that you're aging yourself out. Outcast creative. Yeah. All right.
Mhm.
That was an old
Abs-
certification we used to have in the UK.
Oh. And so here, Tom is reaching out to you, Burst Angel. Please speak to Tom and anybody else in the chat where we have these ideas for you. We certainly do want to see you succeed with that. And Russ, I did want to mention, getting back to
Mhm.
what you were saying, the idea of people being interested in historical fiction again. And now, for a long time, we pretty much have had historical nonfiction as the norm.
Mm.
And am I saying that? No, historical fiction as the norm, but people want historical nonfiction now. And they have a desire to see things that may be more historically significant because it's the truth. For example, The Northman is historically and culturally significant because it is actually based on facts. And I think that, one of my favorite films, Gladiator, which is wonderful. It's a beautiful film,
Yep.
fantastically done. I love it. May not necessarily be the most historically accurate film. And I
I,
wondered, Russ, I
yeah.
wondered, when we're looking at these films, what the importance of it is. And I had mentioned to you how much I enjoyed Netflix's documentary series on, I think it was called The Romans, and how
Mm.
it was historically significant and what a difference it made for me to understand certain things that you needed to know. But we needed to also see them. It's great to hear historians talk about it, but sometimes it's also great to see the dramatization of the actual events. And we got that. And, recently I saw Greyhound, which starred Tom Hanks, about World War II historical events, and they're making a part 2 for Greyhound. And the
Mm.
question that I had was, are we going more towards these historical nonfiction movies and TV? Is there even more of a desire now to see things that are more historically and culturally significant?
I would hope so, but I can't speak on the Northman, but I do know they're one of the channels, and I can't remember if this is Netflix or on Amazon. They've made a Vikings TV show, which is all about them coming back over and giving us a kicking. So the Last Kingdom was about the Anglo Saxons kicking the Vikings, and now they've made a sort of riposte with there was a subsequent invasion where they took over some of the south of England, but it didn't really last, I don't think. But however, that's the focal point of the story. But they've decided to change the king of the Northmen, a dude called Eric, who's now a female lady of color, um, for reasons. So I'm not sure. Um, we come back to that thing again. Why would you do that? What's the point of doing that? Representation, but I don't know. Um, one, I think we spoke about this before. A brilliant show on Netflix actually is called one called Barbarians. It's a German show. We spoke about this last week, and it's all done in ancient Germanic and Latin, and I absolutely love that show. So yeah, there is a lot of it about. There's a Turkish one I saw about the Ottoman Empire. I haven't watched the show, but I've seen it advertised. So yeah, it would be great to see stuff that's. And you mentioned the Outlaw King, which is again about people giving the English a kick in. I don't know why we're the perennial bad guys, but we are. Which is Scottish rebellion against the King of England, and they were successful for a short time, but eventually brought back into the fold after a particularly brutal campaign a few hundred years later. Yeah, more. I'd love to see more of it. In answer to your question about Gladiator, Gladiator isn't accurate. The portrayal of the battle at the beginning is absolutely fantastic. Commodus did fight in the arena and did murder people in the arena. It's Maximus. I didn't think was a real guy, but I've since found out was a real general and was a contemporary of Marcus Aurelius, which I didn't know. But as a whole, no. Commodus did not die in the arena, and he was not killed by Maximus in the arena.
He
But he certainly did
certainly was
fight.
not.
He did fight. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not going to give out too much about the details of Commodus fighting in the arena, but he was one of the principal individuals who focused on fighting and the importance that he felt that it would sway the public's appreciation over to him and give him more power over the Senate. Right,
Mm.
Russ?
Yeah.
So
I don't really know. I mean, Commodus it's a weird thing because gladiators. I think we spoke about this last week. Gladiators were like the lowest of the low, so it was absolutely outrageous for an emperor to do that. I mean, that is just like I don't know. It would. I'm trying to think
it'd
of
be
something
like
that the
a
Queen
person
could do.
yeah, like her becoming a pop star or something, like, it would seem very
Yeah,
odd to see her kind
exactly.
of, like, singing up and doing pop songs and then
It,
it being a number 1 hit or international hit.
yeah, like
Um,
Kate really, William's wife Kate, doing a cover of WAP and appearing on, it would be on that level, right?
yes.
It's a completely shocking, completely inappropriate. And Nero, hundreds of years before that, he got the same shit because he just wanted to be he just wanted to be an artist and perform and stuff like that. And yeah, that was really, really frowned on as well. But they were
Well,
different times, different people.
oh, absolutely, and hello, Big Dog Pound 1. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Hello.
Um, it's so good to see you as always. Rogue Thinker says, the entertainment industry is filled with industry people. They have never lived in the world where the rest of us live. Yes, perhaps that is true.
But hasn't that
And
always been true though? I mean, that has always been it's always been a bubble. I was listening to Chatto, funnily enough,
oh yes, yes, I'm
the other
streaming
day.
with him now on Fridays, I think.
Right, right. But he was on a show, and he was saying, like nothing's really changed. Like Hollywood, and I've always thought this Hollywood is like really, really left leaning and always has been, that way. Um, but what he was saying was, people like, Jewison and all these writers of the past were, they were not they were very left wing writers, but they were good at what they did, and they realized that they could put a message into a story. And what Chatto was saying was nowadays you've just got people that aren't very good putting their messaging into a story, and then it becomes it's no longer subtle. It's got all the subtlety of a brick, and people are being switched off by it because, or as you can see, Netflix has taken a right hammering lately, hasn't it?
Well, something that I'm really concerned about in regards to the writing quality, and let's say I thought perhaps it was a generational thing of a bunch of misinformed, poorly trained writers. And I was hoping that in that sense, does it mean that there'll be a desire for writers who have experience, kind of like what Outcast Creatives is explaining to us, writers who have written quite a bit more, whether it's television or movies, and they'll look for writers like that who are able to provide a more traditional style of writing versus, let's say the substandard writing we've been getting. Does that mean that is more opportunities for past talent versus the current talent that no one really is kind of like absolutely eager to even have in a show anymore, despite them and saying, yeah, this is exactly, what we need right now, realizing that it is a failure, that it wasn't quite something that was a good idea and we need to go in a new direction. I mean, this Netflix thing, Russ, that you mentioned has been, this has been such an unusual week with what happened with Netflix. And they had announced that they didn't want people to share passwords and subscriptions. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is getting a little, tyrannical. We certainly don't need to be, micromanaged when it comes to our subscriptions. Like how
Mm.
far is that going to go? Somebody's in the living room and someone's in another area of the house, and you can't watch two different things on Netflix, but you have a subscription. It seems a bit ridiculous to me. And I think that the idea of even enforcing this was because Netflix knew that they were, I guess, maybe losing subscribers, and were in trouble. So, the introduction of that was a sign that something was awry. And of course, we saw that they had lost not only subscribers, but a bit of their value.
A
And
bit.
well, people are saying that it's oversaturation of the streaming world. Is the streaming world oversaturated? And is Netflix an example of this issue?
Um, yes, I think so. Yes, it's certainly oversaturated, but it's also new, isn't it? So all of these companies were going to have a massive growth rate, and Netflix has been the king of that market for such a long time. Um, so I think this is like a natural progression because so you've got Netflix, you've got Amazon, you've got HBO Max, you've got Hulu, in the States, you've got Disney Plus. That's five I've just reeled off, and I'm sure there's Tubi, the Curiosity Stream. There's so many now, right? And when you start adding it up, $20, 21, that's okay. I've already just spent $100 a month now on the five that I just reeled off. Okay, I mean Amazon's a little bit different, but what are you buying? What are you buying Netflix for? Well, me, I Cobra Kai, is the only reason I have Netflix, and the only reason I have Netflix now is because I can't be bothered to cancel it. I just keep forgetting to cancel it, and I think it's like a gym membership, isn't it? Everybody joins in January and then uses it for 2 weeks, and then the gym relies on those people just paying and never going. And I think it's the same with Netflix. I've read in certain outlets that this is a reaction to their, dare I say, woke content and their woke agenda. I've seen lots of memes going around of Netflix titles which mock Netflix titles that they would make, like Idris Elba starring as Zelensky, the story, and all this kind of stuff, because Netflix is quite famous for doing this. Is this a reaction to that? I don't know, but there was always going to be, the bubble was always going to burst at some point, because the average British family, the average American family, how much money can we actually spend on streaming services that we are purchasing for one or two shows? Ultimately, I mean, Disney Plus, that's good. That's huge for Mando and for Star Wars, right? But with the Marvel stuff, most of those movies you've already seen. The shows haven't landed as well as I think that they wanted them to land. So I don't know. I think, yeah, it's oversaturated, and there's so much content, and the content on Netflix, especially, that's being promoted. The Netflix algorithm just doesn't seem to be very good, and the write ups aren't very good. Like if you
No,
read
they're
the write ups of a
terrible.
net, they're really crap, aren't they? And you're
Yeah,
thinking, well,
they're horrible.
everybody says this. Why haven't they
Hold on.
looked at
I'm
this?
sorry. Just one second.
Yeah, so our is in Maryland with
Sorry.
her mum at the moment. So
I knew this
mum's
was going
asking
to
questions in
happen
the
at some
background, right?
point because she's asking me like where her different clothes are. And I'm sorry,
Mm.
guys. I'm in the same room with my mother, so that can tend to happen sometimes. I apologize. Russ, it's okay. It's okay. Russ, you remember when Netflix was, they would send you discs in the mail and that's all you got.
Yeah.
And then it turned into the streaming service that we know. So it has changed quite a bit. But then other companies started streaming services and they lost contracts, like with Disney. That was a big blow for them.
Mm.
Disney had their own, and Disney isn't the best streaming service, but it meant all those Disney films that they had contracts with they couldn't show. And time again, they kept losing and losing certain things. So I think that the model is a great idea when they had pretty much access to every type of film out there. But as restrictions continued, all of a sudden you were getting less and less types of variety.
Mm,
On Netflix. And then, they tried their best to produce shows, which I think was very ambitious and bold. But for a company that didn't have really anything to produce stuff like that, it was very hard. Rogue Thinker says it used to be that writers and execs lived lives and fought wars and then came to the industry with that experience. And then we have Megas of Acante says, it's going to go all the way. Netflix has taken too many back steps. They're stuck in damage control mode.
yeah, maybe. The competition in the streaming, what is it they always used to say, begun the streaming wars have. Yeah, the competition really amped up during COVID, didn't it? When yeah, even Warner Brothers went for it with HBO Max and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'll level out. Your profits, and there's only so many people in the world. There's only so many people that can afford to do this stuff. So these companies will grow. Also, people are going back to work now, right? Yeah, Burst Angel makes a good point. It will be come back once the streaming bust bursts because they've got a head start on everybody else. Somebody was saying as well, they're like they're almost a legacy company at this point. They've got such a brand name. There you go. It's Megas.
Well, it has been almost 20 years, right, Russ? It's been about 20 years since Netflix has been around. I mean, they were around during the Blockbuster video days.
Yeah, it was Love Film, I think it was called, wasn't it? It's in the UK
Yeah.
certainly.
And they
But
gave Blockbuster a run for their money. You remember there was, or at least let's say video stores and,
mm,
places where you would rent videos. They gave them a run for their money with the idea that you didn't have to go to physically go to a video store. You could go online,
mm,
check off and say, yeah, I want to rent, these films. You're entitled to 2 or 3 movies at a time. They send it to your house and then you just send it back in a return envelope.
mm.
Um, which is an idea that I guess sounds very archaic right now. Mike Alito says they've lost a lot of subscribers because of the password issue plus price increase, plus the fact that people can't find quality content on the
Yeah,
service,
I'm
which
saying the algorithm sucks. I mean, it should just be, serving me up Scott Adkins movies like that, and all this kind of stuff. And it just doesn't. It serves me up stuff that it wants me to watch, which is stuff that I don't want to watch. So it's like, no, I'm not interested in that. So um, I think, yeah, the interface for these services could be better. And I'm surprised that they're not as good as they could be. Like YouTube's interface is pretty damn good actually, but Netflix not so much really.
and the interesting thing about YouTube is that remember they didn't have a model like this. They didn't start off with a business model like this. This is
No.
something that happened to YouTube because I think that certain creative people, not everybody, but certain creatives needed to have an extra outlet to do this. And for the
Oh,
first time in history, we have this outlet to do this.
I have a point on that as well. Actually, I know an author whose name I'm not going to mention. Um, and it's not because I'm vague booking or anything like that, but it's not really my place to say his name in this particular context. But he recently hit the gold mine, right? His books have been picked up for a Netflix show. Right now, this guy is pretty famous, but he's not. He's very prolific. He's not Bernard Cornwell level just yet, but I can imagine that he will be. And his comment on having been have his, so you think, yeah, I've won the lottery. My stuff's going to be on Netflix, and of course, that is huge and brilliant news. And obviously, he is thrilled. It's not. This isn't Ben, by the way. It's another guy. Um, but he said the Netflix deal was literally like been bent over the table and arse fucked. Like, it's that they've yes, they're going to show your show, but he's not going to make hardly anything off of it. And yes, it'll probably bring more readers to his content and stuff like that. So even when you've got quality content, there it seems to me, and I don't know yet, and I'm sure I will find out soon, but the artists that are producing this content are not getting rewarded for it. So yes, like something like Extraction with Chris Hemsworth in it gets masses of views, millions upon millions of views, right? But the Netflix model, the writer and director and all the people of that will have been paid, and they will have been paid once, and that's it, and that's all they're ever going to see. And that's as far as I know how the model works. So there's also, the artists are getting shit on. The quality of the stuff that's being shown on there isn't great. Netflix has an agenda to want you to watch certain content, even though you might want to watch. So yeah, I don't think any of these companies well, some of them will go under. Netflix isn't going to go under, but you can't go like that. It has to go like that, because we've only got so much money, and there's only so much shit you want to watch, right?
Yeah, and something else that I think might have hurt them a little bit, and perhaps maybe other studios as well, is the remakes, bringing stuff back. I feel like Netflix should have continued to just be completely experimental and just make new content. And I
Hmm.
think that their desire to bring us, in particular, content from foreign nations is also very admirable. I've seen more foreign content on Netflix than in any other service in my entire life. Like I can go
Yep.
on there and I can just saturate myself in whatever I like, and I really like it, especially the Asian markets. I am enjoying seeing these movies, and there's absolutely, it's not a secret that I do like to watch historical Chinese stories where everybody has super long hair, and as they're kind of like, some of them fly around and their hair is flying in the wind. I love that. Like this, the whole fantasy of it and the beauty of it. I think it's such a lovely thing to do. But I couldn't always see that. But I can go on Netflix and see it. YouTube has a lot of it too now, but Netflix really, promotes it towards you, and they're like, "Hey, check this out. You might like this." And I'm like,
It's
"Yeah, I would
interesting.
like that."
It's interesting, isn't it? Because like that Squid Game was a phenomena, wasn't it? And I've heard a lot of commentators on other YouTube channels basically saying that why these Asian uh, action movies and horror movies and concept movies, because they don't particularly have a political agenda, and they're not forcing that agenda down your throat. So Squid Game, I don't know because I haven't seen it. It's not really my cup of tea, but um, they're just yeah, they just don't have an agenda. And I think a lot of content, as I've heard Cameron Pasha talk about a lot on Midnight's Edge, you know, people are just trying to out woke each other at the moment in the writers' room, because that's the only way to get ahead. And he's not the only guy to have said it. So when you're writing and working in an atmosphere like that, you don't want to be the one guy to say, look, I don't really think this male king of the Vikings actually should be a woman of color. If you're the guy that says that, you're probably going to be the guy that's going to get fired. Whereas your
Yeah,
Asian stuff, there are no Asian productions, and I can't imagine a production meeting in Korea or China or whatever, where they're all sitting around going, you know what, there aren't enough white or black people in this. We need more representation of British people in our kung fu movie. It's just not going to happen because they don't
yeah.
care. They just want to tell their story. Whereas uh, we've become so ideologically driven in our in our mainstream storytelling, um, that's always a thing now. So it's, as Cameron has said many times, people are just trying to outwork each other.
Absolutely. And hello,
And hello,
MCP
Scotty.
Scotty.
Sorry, man, we've
Um,
been rabbiting.
Happy Sunday to you, and Russ. Happy Sunday to you, MCP Scotty. Guys, MCP Scotty is a musician and a member of the PGS. MCP Scotty, please put your information of where we can find your music in the chat so people can find out more about your work. MCP Scotty, I interviewed him on the PGS. So, guys, if you go to the Post Geek Singularity Network, which is formerly the Burr Network, you should be able to find the interview there. Also, and I think this would be interesting for you to answer too. Bloodsport One says, "What was your favorite video store growing up back in the day?" I would say it was a place called Silver Plum Video. Yeah, we were there all the time. It was a great place. There was also another video store that my friend Joey worked at, but I can't remember the name of this store. But it was a great video store. What about you, Russ? Did you have a favorite one?
There used to be one just down in Ashburnham Road because I've lived in this place called Ham. I was here with my girlfriend in the 90s, and then I moved away, and then I came back because I've always loved this area. And there's one down on Ashburnham Road called Paradise Video. But interestingly, when Blockbusters came out, Paradise Video and all the sort of little local video stores went under. Certainly Paradise went because there was a Blockbusters then just down the road in Kingston, and everybody just started going there because when the new films came out, Paradise Video could buy one, two, three. Blockbusters had 40 copies of it. Um, so yeah, but yeah, certainly Paradise Video. I used to love going to Blockbusters, especially in the twilight years of Blockbusters, because a lot of their stuff they used to when the films became older, they would sell them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you'd get like the bargain bucket stuff, and I picked up so many films, which I gave them all away to charity in the end, because I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of DVDs that I'd picked up from various places. But yeah, Paradise and Blockbusters to answer your question.
Wow. And the Outcast creators says picking up on Road Thinker, an older writer has a range of emotional, historical, and life experience to draw from their on for their writing. Young writers have their experiences of TikTok and PlayStation. And this is exactly what I'm alluding to is that, and I'm not ageist at all. Like I'm fine with a writer regardless of their age. But what I'm thinking is that because of this kind of disconnect of younger writers in particular, does that mean that older writers are now going to be more focused on, we're going to have a reversal, Russ, of what we've been seeing because people want to have people who have that experience that only older writers, would have. Do
I
you
don't
think that
know.
that,
No, I don't. I don't. I think within the current ideological climate that we've been talking about, and again, this is something that Cameron Pasha was talking about on Midnight's Edge. He can see like a class action lawsuit because people are being active. Older people, people of certain ethnicities are actively being discriminated against. And it's not even hidden. It's like, if you are of this persuasion, do not apply for this role, and that's kind of illegal to do that. But that's what's happening. So no, I think until this climate changes, that's just not going to happen, and people are going to have to find other mediums and other ways of making money, because he didn't he say that one of his mates was struggling to pay their mortgage because they've just not been picked up for roles. And again, I think we spoke about this before. This comes down to the ESG thing, the environment, social, and government stuff. You know, all of these companies have these scores. They're employing activists of every single different persuasion in order to score brownie points. The problem is when you start employing activists and elevating activists to become writers and directors and whatever they are, then you're going to get activist content. Uh, and it's a false economy because it might sound great in the writers' room where you're all agreeing each other, patting each other on the back, going, "Yes, let's make the King of the Vikings a lady of color." Whereas all of the people who this show is actually for, historical fiction fans, action fans, Swedes and Danes and whatever else, are going to be, insulted, frankly. So yeah, I can't see an end to it anytime soon.
well, Tom Jr. Jackson says Blockbuster at one point was offered to merge with Netflix, and they turned Netflix down because Blockbuster didn't think Netflix would last. And Negus of Bacanti says, plus you have a rotating lineup, which is a function of expiring rights and putting originals first, among other things. I think he's talking about Netflix. Now,
Mm.
Bloodsports has mentioned his name, Russ. I'm not quite sure. Oh, maybe it's a friend that you mentioned.
No, no, I was the author I was talking about. No.
And we also have who else do we have here? Um, Bloodsport, I'm sorry, Big Dog Pound One says, I love Squid Game and All of Us Are Dead. Two great Korean shows. They really do have a lot of great shows.
Yeah,
And
all of
we
us are dead as
know,
a zombie one, isn't it? In the high school, which apparently is fantastic as well.
yeah, and I liked Train to Busan, but there's a prequel to Train to Busan that's a anime. I can't
Hmm.
remember the name of it, but if you look it up, you'll find it. And that was great too. That was a great animated version of the prequel to Train to Busan, which was also uh, definitely a zombie version. Bloodsport One says my favorite video store back in the day was Henry Street Video Store in New York City. They had all the classics, horror, foreign animations. That is where I discovered my love for the horror genre. Well, thank you, Bloodsport One. I'm sure it was fantastic going to a video store in New York City. Wow, that in the city, just those stores, they were just so amazing back then. And I remember Outcast Creative says that European crime shows are the best. Asian television drama has really stepped up in the last 10 years. And we're seeing so much more of it, aren't we? It
Yeah.
wasn't something we would see. I mean, I was lucky to see a lot of martial arts films from Asia in the 80s. I don't know how they or why they ended up on American television, let's say, or let's say just regular television in general. But had that not been the case, there would have been no way that I could have even seen anything like that because there was no place to go for that.
Well, we got them from the
Um,
video shop, funnily enough. That's where in Great Britain, that's where you'd get your because we'd never had streaming and cable and things like that up until really the mid 90s. That's when cable TV first started really coming here. So TiVo and all that stuff is it TiVo that you had? I can't remember.
yeah, we had
So
TiVo. Hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
we didn't. And also we would have to head down to the video store and pick up movies of varying quality based on the cover alone. And yeah, I saw some great ones. Enter the Tiger and all that sort of stuff. Which yeah, all these
Yes.
Bruce exploitation films basically, but they were wicked. I remember I really loved Enter the Tiger, and I think it was The Tiger Strikes Back, and it was a guy called Bruce Lie, Li, as opposed to Bruce Lee. But I don't know his real name. But he was quite a prolific guy in the 70s.
And Burst Angel says, I used to hate Korean drama because of the overuse of melodrama. It was so much cringe, but now they dialed it down. The story shines. Interesting how that certainly developed and has resulted in you liking it. Outcast Creative says, I remember the big blockbusters was on Tollworth Towers.
There was a huge one
And
there, but the one I'm talking about is by As. It used to be where Asda is in Kingston, just sort of headed into New Malden is where I used to go because Outcast Creative and I are from the same neck of the woods, so that's why we are talking
ah,
local.
and Bloodsport One says, remember back when the video store had one or two copies of a blockbuster and you had to wait a month to see a movie? That happened with me with Dirty Dancing. I do remember that. They only had so many copies. I don't know how these guys got to the video store before we did, but they got there, they were there, and they got those copies. I just think that the person who worked there probably called them and say, hey, it's here. It's here.
Mm,
Come get it. Outcast Creative says, in the current climate, older writers have no chance. And I experienced this many times, and I feel bad about that. It's really too bad that that's happening. And I honestly just, it really breaks my heart to hear that's the case.
yeah,
Megan
it
of a Content
sucks.
says, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. After a certain point, my family almost always went to 2020 Video on Beverly Boulevard. It was relatively close. We also went to the larger one in La Brea eventually, but ultimately, I think the family ran through all of both locations worth wild content. That's right.
Yeah,
There's a limited amount. And Tom Jr. Jackson says he used to work at a video store. And they would get new films on Friday, and we would put out the new film that day in order to make money back on the movies the store purchased. Hmm, interesting. The last thing I want to say here, the Outcast Creative says had a meeting about a script, Black historical drama. I said, don't you want a Black writer on this? The Black producer says, your wife is Black, so you get a pass. True story, honestly.
yeah. Funny. Look, I can share one like that as well, Outcast. So recently, I say recently, last year I was approached to write a screenplay for a funded screenplay, by the way. So I was going to get paid for this and everything like that, about the Hungarian Revolution, and it was based on a book that a guy wrote about his dad, who had fought in this revolution. And the producers were on my back, on my back. When's it ready? When's it ready? And rewrite, rewrite, rewrite. No, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. Eventually, so finally, a few weeks ago, and it was only a few months ago now, I turned in the final draft, and the team in the UK signed it off, said that said it was brilliant, obviously, because I'm awesome. No, they I'm joking. They were very, very happy with the screenplay, and then everything went quiet, as Outcast creators will know. Like you do, your inbox is full of people demanding, 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 and then when you finally finish, then nobody gives a shit, nobody communicates with you. This is exactly what happened here. So I reached out and I said, well, what's happening? And it turned out I've been fired, and they had decided no, they wanted a Hungarian person to take what I'd done and Hungarianize it. And I was like, well, why were you on my back to do this job in the first place? And it's really crushing. So yeah, true story. Back at you, mate.
Yeah, that is a shame, and it honestly is very, it's discrimination. If people are doing stuff like that, and I think that eventually suits will be brought up against people for this, because something has to be done. John Ware Jr. says, with the release of Epic Games' Unreal Engine 5 to the public, independent animation films are possible if people can get the RAM storage and develop an efficient production pipeline. That is something to think about. It sounds like such an incredible undertaking, John Ware Jr. And I have a feeling that you're probably one of the people who would be able to do something like this, John Ware.
Mm.
You seem to know how to set it up, but it is really kind of shocking how people are being treated. It's not kind and it's not respectful. And I think that sort of behavior towards creatives, regardless of their background, needs to stop. And, it should never have been a practice in the first place.
Well, there's two sides. I was also going to say maybe John Ware Jr. and Burst Angel should team up for their, Burst Angel's got the script, John Ware's got the animation software. Could we turn this comic into an animated movie? I don't know. I think with the discrimination side of things, yeah. Look, it was the other way for so many years, but that doesn't make now putting it the other way right. There should just be equality in these things, but it almost seems like it's just swung too far the other way, and people of certain persuasions just aren't going to get the work as Outcasts was because you're not ticking a certain physical or preference box, and that's just the way it is at the moment. But it's not right. But it is what it is.
Yes, and Tom Jr. Jackson tells us about the last blockbuster on Earth, and how it certainly did have a sense of community. I absolutely agree with that. And Burst Angel, I have a feeling you and I have something in common. On Saturdays, I had Nightmare Theater and Kung Fu Theater after the morning cartoons. So did I. Got to see so many great horror and Hong Kong movies, but Burst Angel, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me on this, those subtitles were completely wrong. Like it's not the right thing at all. And so we're watching it and we're thinking that it's going to be one story, and it's not that story at all. In fact, later on, I remember watching a movie and they were saying this is what's happening in this story. I'm like, that's not the same story. And of course it was. And whatever translations or dubs that they did, voiceovers they did, were completely not the right story at
The
all.
dubbing was
So
the dubbing was all part of it with the off sequence mouth, and everybody had that really deep, "You lousy bastards." Do I remember Bruce Lee, "You lousy bastards," going like that. It was brilliant.
absolutely. So what was interesting about this is that particular situation. And now I feel like Burst Angel, I don't know about you, but I feel like I have to go ahead and rewatch all of these films just to kind of like understand what was going on in the first place. Ash Chase says, Enter the Dragon Bruce Lee story is my favorite martial
Hold on.
arts movie.
I have a question on that because there was Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, which was starred Jason Scott Lee as the story of Bruce Lee's life. And of course, there was Enter the Dragon, the 1973 classic movie with Bruce Lee, John Saxon, and Jim Kelly in it, and Bolo was in that one as well. So, which one are we talking about? Is it the life story or the actual Bruce Lee movie? I don't know. I'd be interested to know, Ash.
Yeah, that's a Good question. So please let us know what the story is with that. Now, in regards to the other big story, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, Russ, because I do have to shorten our broadcast today. But it has to do with
My
Disney.
heart. No, I'm enjoying myself. What are you doing? Don't tell
Sorry.
me you have other priorities on a Sunday, or positive fandom show. Sunday brunch is the priority. No, I'm kidding. You were saying Disney.
Well, Disney had this very unusual thing where, unfortunately, it looks like there has always been a push for them to have their special status taken away. And this special status essentially allows them to do certain things that other companies could not. So while
For
there were
example,
other, for example, be able to have certain amount of control and be able to bypass the way taxes are paid and assessed on their properties.
hmm
Also to acquire certain parcels of land um, that they couldn't acquire, in normal company couldn't acquire. So Ash Chase is the first one, my bad.
oh, End of the
Um,
Dragon, right? Yeah.
being able to acquire certain packages of land that usually companies were not permitted to do, and then get tax breaks from either the special deal that they had. And Mike Alito says they basically own their own country, which was kind of like what it was. It became like their own little statehood. And with this removal, now someone's going to have to go in there, reassess everything potentially. And this reassessment could cost them billions of dollars at some point. The speculation is actually unfathomable because, what's going to happen is, you have all of this excess value that's never been assessed from day one. And now it's a big problem. Um, so, this is something to think about. And just relatively speaking, this could have a dramatic effect over everything. Like, for example, Tom Jr. Jackson says they have their own fire station, they have their own way of garbage disposal, and now they have to rethink everything. Everything has to be rethought. But it's something that now they have to focus all their energy at a critical point in the particular history of this franchise IP company, global company that was known for making kid-friendly films and sometimes adult films for adults. Now, on top of all of it, they're embroiled in this sort of questionable activities part. Now, um, honestly, with their management shakeups and different things that have happened over the past 2 years, everybody has had to readjust, what they're doing and how they're doing it. But I think that this particular case has now focused everything on them at maybe at a more vulnerable time for them. At a time when they perhaps not feeling as powerful as they normally are.
hmm
And so at this very vulnerable moment, once they signed the document that said, okay, we're going to talk about removing your special status, it's kind of like, hitting them when they're at their lowest point, as far as I'm concerned. But, I kind of wonder, will it ever actually happen? Like, is it going to go through? Because I guess maybe they could overturn it or ask for the status back. And, is it true? Like, what kind of effects will it have going forward? This morning I was watching a program, and they were talking about children's content, which is, content where parents don't have to worry about whether or not anybody is talking about anything related to sex, so to
mm
speak.
mm.
For years you could watch Disney programs and there would never be any sort of content focusing on that. And so, now they've kind of like come under the radar because there are executives who are boasting about wanting to insert sexual themes into stories meant for children. And so I'm almost wondering whether with this focus now, I was telling you earlier, Russ, about this company that's noticed that people were posting videos just of their family events. And these family events are now being packaged by Pocket Watch, who will go ahead and take ordinary kids programming from ordinary people and package it from YouTube as, kind of like what with more content than they could ever even imagine. And it's just kids playing or doing activities, stuff, content that was shared would normally have been shared on Facebook, but now it's being shared on YouTube. And
Mm.
people like this content because it's free of any kind of agenda. It's free of any kind of sexual discussion. It's just kids playing and enjoying themselves and family activities. And I think people want that stuff back. That's what they actually are craving now. Um, this company, Pocket Watch, is worth billions of dollars. And I think it's really fascinating to look at this. Maybe YouTube is actually a place for companies to find a trend and then take that trend and package it and make it into something that viewers will want to see over and over again. And what do you think about that, Russ?
Wow. Well, there's a lot to unpack there, isn't there? I mean,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
this is a Florida thing, isn't it? And we know that the governor of Florida is of a certain persuasion, and that's absolutely fine. I think if he's giving Disney a kick in the balls, no one is going to be crying in their sleep over what Disney has become. Right now, you were talking about Disney being the Disney that we grew up with, and Mikey Leto grew up with. We're of a certain age, right? And that was the Disney of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves and Sword and the Stone and Robin Hood and Dick Van Dyke and all that kind of stuff. And Disney is no longer that. Disney's a huge mega corporation, that has a political agenda that it is forcing into every single aspect of its entertainment. So to talk about the younger person things, and you can't, I guess, divorce this from politics. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not American. Okay, so this is not said from a place of partisan politics, but what I understand is in the state of Florida, there's been a prohibition on teaching young children about sex and gender reassignment, and how they're just treating children as we were treated. And I imagine that this message of has now passed itself onto Disney. So like DeSantis seems to be very much anti teaching children about sex until they reach a certain age, which, as a parent, I'm kind of on board with. But that's not it's not a political show, right? So I imagine that this pocket watch that you're talking about, if it's just got children running around playing football and Star Wars and just kids being kids, then yeah, that's the sort of content you want your children to be watching. You don't, or, no, not you, me. I would say me. I would not want my children watching when they were little, um, programs that were full of agendas about their sexuality, which I think children just shouldn't be taught about. Sam and I used to sit and watch fucking Super Friends, and then when she got a little bit older, it was Justice League, because I'm a fan. But also, even my ex-wife Sally used to say, these programs are great because they, especially the Justice League, because it was teaching responsibility, and they would always do the right thing, and there were different perspectives. And Superman would look at one thing one way, and Wonder Woman the other way, and Batman the other way. But they didn't particularly have a message. It was just about standing up for yourself and doing the right thing, which is a great message. So yes, I you can't divorce it from the politics, I guess, in Florida. But as Mikey's saying, I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's something to think about. OG fan, when Star Wars was just Star Wars, says, yes, the governor of Florida is not a pedophile. That's the persuasion. And thank you, OG
Yeah, thanks.
fan,
Yeah,
when Star Wars was just Star Wars. It's so good to see you here today. We hope you are well. This actually goes into, just talking, and Mikey Lido kind of brings up a good point because they've kind of tried to show this as, focusing on one particular group. And it's not really focusing on one group. It's on every single group because it has to do with sex. And, we're all sexual creatures. So, it's
yeah,
something
but
we're
children
all.
aren't, and I think that's kind of the
Exactly.
point, isn't it?
Yes.
When you're 6 or
Yes.
7, it's just for weeing out of, right? That's what it's for, and I don't think that those conversations are appropriate. Other people can disagree. I'm not right or wrong. It's just that's what I think, not what everybody else should think. It's just my perspective.
Exactly. And I also think that their focus of trying to make it focused on just one group is not fair. You
Mm.
know, this is meant across the board for every individual under the sun. So that also was not fair for them to kind of like become the focus of this because it really wasn't, narrowed down to one particular group. And Maya says, I can't imagine how much this is going to impact the average citizen. It just feels like Disney has its hands full with so much right now. Boy, I am glad I don't work for Disney PR because this would just be like, you'd have to pull out the best PR people right now to kind of respond to so much of this.
Well, yeah, but this is
Um,
the thing, Aram, isn't it? When you make your uh what is it Rob always says, when you're putting your agenda and your universe before your story, there's a problem. And if you are going to be overtly selling a message, clearly sending a message, it's not even subtle anymore. It's not subtext. This is what these people who are producing this content believe. You cannot, as we just saw in the chat between Mikey and OG Star Wars fan, right? Not everybody is going to agree with you. So not everyone's going to say, no, this is perfect. I love this. Yes, we absolutely agree. No, 50 or 48% of people, whatever it happens to be, are not going to like that. So if you're going to do that, you then can't go crying into your beer when other people are saying, no, this is bullshit. I don't like it. So yeah.
yeah, and I think that this concern is just normal legislation anyway, because there would be, there were laws outside of this that it said children's programming had to have a certain amount of X, Y, and Z in it, let's say.
Hmm.
And that became the norm of what we were expecting from children's programming. So I don't see this recommendation as any different. But I do think it's very interesting that, the idea of losing that special status will have such a profound effect on the company. Bloodsport One says, do you remember the 1987 film, The Believers? I'm watching it right now on Prime. That's wonderful. Yes, I do remember it.
I remember the
In
title, but I can't remember anything about it. I remember the title, but what is it about?
I can't remember the details either. Bloodsport One, can you please tell us the details of that, or anyone actually, when you get a chance, just so that we can have our memories refreshed. OG fan when Star Wars was just Star Wars. I don't think it's a narrative teaching children about this adult material. That's why their kids and parents have care, custody, and control of them until they're 18.
Yes, I agree
Yeah.
completely, but other
Yeah.
people necessarily don't, especially some teachers, right? So
Exactly. And that's something to think about too. Um, before you go, any thoughts on CNN Plus going belly up after 1 month? Um, I can't imagine. Honestly, I almost thought this might be a fleecing kind of thing. From what I understand, they spent a lot of money trying to create CNN Plus, and it didn't have any promise. No one asked for this. No one wanted this. CNN has had a very strong presence on YouTube like forever.
mm,
So why would they need CNN Plus for? CNN has always been a free, pretty much service. If you have cable, you get it. But CNN has had such a long presence on YouTube for free that you never had to pay for it. Now all of a sudden they want to start charging for it, and I'm just surprised that they were going to take action now, knowing how saturated the market
well, we'll
was.
see what Zaslav's got to do about that, right? Because he'll one of his missions is to sort out CNN, and again, because they're of a certain persuasion and they have a certain agenda, and you know, I don't think anybody believes. It's like CNN is the echo chamber, isn't it? If you're one side, you go watch CNN. If you're the other side, you go and watch Fox, and they're the twain shall meet. And I think Zaslav is quite anti that, and kind of wants to get CNN back to what it used to be, which was a respected news outlet and not an agenda-filled pack of lies, essentially. And I think that would be good.
Yeah, and certainly OG fans, when Star Wars was just Star Wars, says Chapek has cost Disney 30% over this past year, and he should be fired. And a lot of people certainly feel that way. Megas of Vacanti says, I'm always confused. Bloodsport and Kickboxer, both of the series had Van Damme in it, fighting in underground martial
Oh man, come on!
tournament.
I'm going to take away your nerd credentials. You cannot be confused between those two movies. They're both classics. Come on, come on. What the hell? Kickboxer's the one with the glass. Bloodsport's the one where it's Frank
Wait, wait.
Dukes. Come on.
Kickboxer was the one where he had glass on his boxing hands.
Yes, on his
Now,
ropes. They have the rope with the
Cyborg,
resin.
and
Yeah.
yes, Cyborg was the one where he kicked his leg through a glass window in a car.
Yes, Cyborg. There's two different Cyborg movies.
Yes, yes.
There's two different cuts. They're vastly, vastly different.
I liked Cyborg.
I can tell. But the names in
um,
Cyborg were ridiculous, right? Because they were basically just based all off guitars, right? So he was called Gibson Rickenbacker, which is Gibson's guitar and Rickenbacker's were bass, and then you had Fender, which is a guitar make, Fender Tremolo, which is the whammy bar on it on the guitar. So what the hell were you thinking, man? Anyway, we digress.
and Bloodsport One says it was about ritual style child murders in New York City, starring Martin Sheen. The Believers.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. Yeah,
thank you
my
for that.
God, that's an old film. Yes. Oh my goodness. Well done. Thanks, Bloodsport.
Absolutely. And I did just want to say before we kind of wrap this up, OG fan when Star Wars is just Star Wars says to Ash Chase, this is a great community and we're all one big family. We may not always agree, but we are here for the same purpose, and I love it. And that is absolutely something
Hmm.
that is so important to mention. That's why we're here. This entire community is important to Russ and myself, and I think to everyone who's here.
Yeah.
And thank you, Bloodsport. You guys are talking about Cyborg. Yes, was the
Yeah,
one with Billy
I
Drago.
just wanted to add
Yes,
something to what
yes,
was said just said by OG Star Wars fan, just
yes.
for the people that are listening. Actually, our whose real name I know outside of positive fandom do not agree on anything politically whatsoever. We are at opposite ends of the scale, and we talk about this often. We have very,
Yes,
very long chats on the phone about this and that and what this decision and that decision. But you know what? We agree to disagree. We don't fight about it. I put forward my perspective. She'll put forward her perspective, and we may find a common ground. I think, actually, I didn't think of it that way. And I think if more people could do that, as opposed to just solidifying their viewpoints on absolute, the world might be a better place, because we are never going to get anywhere. Let's take woke Hollywood. That's never going to get the support of people that are not woke unless there's some common ground and people can start talking and coming together. Because I don't want that content. Other people might want that content, but it can't just be the one thing. So I think, as OG Star Wars fan says there, yeah, we could all do with a little bit more of that.
absolutely. And I think it shows that, generally speaking, I'd like to think that we value each other as individuals. And I did just want to mention that in recent years we've seen a lot of bashing of men, in particular, specific men like cis males, white males. And it's really been something that I think is inappropriate, and nobody should be bashed this way. But men in general, I think you guys are great. I kind of started this show with Lorena Creel. It was her idea. She asked me to co-host, called Toxic Masculinity. And part of why we did it is because we wanted, men to know that we value you guys. We think you are important, and your opinions are important. And no matter how they try to vilify, the male voice, if you will, we don't care. We still love you guys, regardless of your age. We don't care. If you have an opinion, please absolutely share it with us, because we see your worth. And we also want to, something that Russ had introduced to me, along with his daughter, who wrote a fantastic article on what it means to reject modernity and embrace masculinity, has to do with just the importance of, the role of men in our society and how important you guys are. So we wanted
Thanks.
to focus on a lot of films that demonstrate that, and just talk about how important it is for when other people are vilifying you, there are those of us out there like myself and like Lorena Creole who think you're great. So don't worry, this whole fantasy that they're creating of being, very negative towards you and vilifying you, it's just their fantasy. There is worth in all of you guys out there, regardless of how you may be discriminated against or put down or whatever it is. We don't think that's right, and we're going to keep mentioning that we don't think it's right because it isn't right. So anyway, I did just want to mention that it's a show called Toxic Masculinity.
And it's brilliant. I
And
watched the first episode the other night, and it was really, really entertaining. It was really, really informative, and it was a lot of fun. You and Lorena have such a great vibe together. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next one, which I think will be coming out today, right? Does she release them on YouTube on a Sunday?
if it's not Sunday, it's Thursday, because we were
Oh,
doing our
okay.
Reacher series, which is kind of related to that as well. And you're right,
Mm,
Russ. And I also do want to mention, and thank you, Mikey Lito. It's not just for women who like men; it's for individuals who like men.
mm.
So it doesn't matter who you are. Uh, we love men, and we're going to let you know that. So don't worry about the vilification. You don't deserve it. You never deserved it in the first place. We just want to acknowledge, the fact of that, and that, we don't have those opinions about you. There are people, in the community who are trying to be supportive. So just hang in there until all those wicked people kind of, come to the realization that what, kind of vilifying people for no reason isn't the right thing to do. And we want to keep a positive feel for everyone, okay? Including women who like men and people who like men. And thank you, Mikey Lito, for reminding me of the importance of that as well. OG fan, when Star Wars was just Star Wars, says, I love your toxic masculinity and toxic femininity shows. Great to see you. Well, thank you so much for that. Uh, I'm so glad you like it. Russ, before we go, first of all, is there anything you want to say before we
No,
end the
I
show?
just actually, well, yeah, just thanks to everybody that tuned in today. We certainly want to hear more about your guys' projects out there. This comic sounds awesome that we were talking about before. More about the Unreal 5 engine. I don't know anything about that. It's always great to chat with everyone. Please do check each other's sites out, because I know there's a few creatives here, including the Outcast creatives. Please share and like each other's stuff, because it's a tough environment out there, and everybody here wants everybody else to succeed. I think I can say that from the bottom of my heart. I hope everybody that's creating something goes on to make fortunes out of it. That would be marvelous. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone, and thanks to the man, the legend, for moderating our stream as usual. And yeah, have a great Sunday, guys.
Absolutely, Tom Jr. Jackson. We are all good people. Thank you so much, Tom Jr. Jackson, my collaborator and moderator extraordinaire. Thank you for everything that you do. We so appreciate it. Guys, you can find me on Monday nights on Toxic Femininity. I won't be on this week, but I will return next week. During the week, sometimes you can find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network on Say What or Uncivilized Scoundrels. I also stream with Lorena and our show, which you will see, toxic male. It's actually toxic male appreciation.
Oh,
Toxic, yeah, and you will see that. I think we're going to be streaming it on Thursday. Normally, you can find me on Friday afternoons with Midnight's Edge with Tom and Andre and Shadow, who seems to be joining our programming now as well. And I think this Friday we might be returning to Midnight Musings on the PGS, which is formerly the Burnett Work with Robert Meyer Burnett. And as always, on Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me here on Sunday Brunch with Russ Whitfield. Talking and doing all the parlay and the fandom. Absolutely do come back, guys. We so appreciate what you do. And absolutely to everybody out there, please, as Russ has stated, let us know what projects you're working on. Let us know what's going on. Ask advice. We're going to try and help out. You guys are the best. We so appreciate everything by coming and supporting the show. And for all you guys, no matter where you are out there in the galaxy, on the Earth, whatever planet you may be on, always remember to please be kind and take care, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much.